Alright, welcome back everyone to Captain's Log Part 2. Today we will be continuing the character creation process, and I think we will get into a quick little introduction about the guns, some of the weapons. Now, I had already recorded this, but in my editing of it, I didn't like how it was turning out, and so I felt as if I should just re-record it. There's some things that I could do better, and things that I'm going to do better now. So to start us off, we have our backgrounds. Now, the backgrounds aren't as fleshed out now as I would like them to be compared to everything else. In something such as like a diplomat or the bureaucrat, I need to actually give them starting base money because I came up with an economic system for the game. Instead of, just everything is $1, I calculated it to be about every Earth dollar is the same for every about 5 space dollars. So, or I guess the other way around would make more sense. 1 space dollar in this game is about 5 Earth dollars. So that's the rough economic system. And the backgrounds just give you a couple extra starting gear or equipment and a couple extra points to your body. For example, the soldier gives you +2 to your body now because you're a bit stronger. The explorer gets a little bit of everything, but not a whole lot of everything. The newcomer is if you just kind of want anything you want. You just want to get a quick little pick and buy of everything. So, and this will come up later, but this is pronounced hacker. It doesn't look like it. It sounds kind of like haxer, maybe with a little S. Or some people might not translate the numbers into letters, but that is hacker. So all those scammers that are trying to get your money, that you can play as one of them. Now the next one is skills. These are very simplified and they will get fleshed out in the future as well. Remember, this series isn't a here and done thing, it's an evolution process. So you're following along with me changing around and updating my game as it goes. And I would like to say I don't know how well the audio is being picked up, but I am. Shout out to Mr. Bishop down here. He is giving me some background music for this. I felt like that would help improve it a lot instead of just listening to my voice. So it'll fade in and out. Actually, I'll turn it up for you guys just in case. Hopefully I can talk over it at an appropriate volume. So what do the skills do? Well, they're skills, they're feats that you have, some of the stuff you know. For example, if you are a medic, whenever you perform physical, non-magical healing, you level up your skill in medic. The only time it actually levels up is if you roll a critical 20, natural 20. I feel like that music is way too loud. Those horns just kind of were blaring. We'll try right there. That seems okay. Hopefully the music stays. And it seems like it is shifting up and down a little bit. So, with this one, whenever you roll the natural 20, it levels that up. What happens when it levels up? What bonuses do you get? Well, the next time you use it, you're able to add the level of your skill to the roll. So let's say you are level 4 in medic, that means you have a +4 to your roll now, so you get a better chance to succeed. I like how it's out. I like the system of where it's at. Perhaps the skills themselves do need a fine-tunement though. But overall, they're just kind of a background thing that you level up, not a very active thing, I'd say. So, leveling. Before I get into this, I feel like now's a good time to interrupt on the actual character creation process, like how it looks. Right here, we have a rough draft, as you can tell. But this is how it would look, right? So these would be empty, but let's say you have a 4 in your body, right? You have 4 body points. This is how it would be represented on your character. These 4 hit points are each one of your body stat. So if you had a level 5, we would add 5 into these body points. Let's just, right, level 5, you put an extra dot in here, wherever it fits. There's going to be a lot of erasing of your on your character sheet, so maybe a digital one would be better in the future, but that's the idea of how it'd go. Maybe you have a little side paper you can keep track of your health. Up here is your name, maybe your race, what level you are. I don't really have alignments. I don't 100% mesh with that. It works for other games, but the nature of, well, really humans, we have the only one to based off of, is far more flexible, and people are totally up for changing their beliefs and systems, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they are steadfast. But forcing your character to stick to that one thing their entire life and not allowing them to change doesn't feel exactly right, and I want that to be able to change, to be able to say, hey, we're able to do this and that with your character instead. Yeah, make it a bit more fun. Down here is where you would have your main weapon, right? So let's say this is your super cool tricked out assault rifle, and down here is just like a knife or something. The armor set, how your armor feels and wears, and any other protective gear, and then down here is just all your other stuff. So like say maybe you have this tactical HUD or a jetpack, this is where you track some stats of it. And this would be like a runoff page, so maybe you have all of this gear, like you have some insanely tricked out character just with like a million arms and some gadget or weapon in each hand. This would be a runoff list of all that stuff. So there's another thing, we'll come back to that in a bit. So, the leveling system. The leveling system in this, compared to many other board games, many other RPGs, is more mission-based, I would say. In normal, say Dungeons & Dragons, that's a very just well-known system that I can just keep referring back to. The main leveling system in that is you kill something, you get XP. That's not always the case. Maybe the DM will allow you to get some XP for finding something, discovering something, or there's milestones, so the DM's like, okay, every so often I'm going to grant you guys a level up here during the story progression, but the main source of XP for everything in games is you kill something and you get the XP for that. Which leads to a lot of murder hobo situations in games where nothing else matters besides the killing part to them. So I wanted to avoid that, right? I wanted to put in a system because maybe you don't have a game where you kill anyone. Maybe you have characters that just want to explore space for space. Maybe they want to solve some cosmic mystery or something with very low violence. How do we do that? The quest strings. So these are the different ways of leveling up. Whenever you like make 5 friends in the game, you know, you're friendly with 5 NPCs to a point where they're not even hostile enemies. They don't need to be like reoccurring friends or NPCs in the game, but someone that you become really friendly with, it gives you a level up point. Combat, whenever you kill up to 20 people, you get a level up point. Traveler, each time you visit a new planet or like a new mega city or new hidden cave, you gotta get 10 of those and you get another level up point. Crafter, each time you build your own gun, your own bit of armor, your own building or car or something, you need to do 15 of that to get a level up point. And enduring, so every time you almost die, right, let's say you're down to your last hit point but you resist dying, you get a point in, you get another level up point. And how these work, I think it's stated up top, how these work is they are reoccurring missions. So you have to do that times your level. So let's say the combat one, for the first level, if you're level 1, you only need to kill 20 people. If you're level 2, you now need to kill 40. So it gets to the point where you have to kill so many people later on that you're basically would need to do a genocide. You're mass murdering, which I think is a good balancing point. Because if it's like a level 20, that's 400 people you need to kill. That's a lot of people you have to go out of your way to kill. So instead, you can supplement the other points needed to level up by doing the other quest strings. That way, you have a more fleshed out character with a lot more life experiences than just hyper focusing. And it works thematically and story wise both ways, you know? Some more elevated people throughout history have done a lot of things, and some hyper focus. And this allows this version of the XP allows for both of those to occur naturally. And what happens is after you get those 4 points, after you level up to whatever level you are, you get 4 points you can put into the main stats of your character. So if you do have, you know, a 3 in body, 2 in mind, and like a 5 in soul, you can now flesh those out. So you put 2 here and 2 here to make yourself a 5, 4, 5. I think that way would be easier. That way you can that's the best way to do it. Because if I just did the 3, then you can just mediocrely level yourself up each time. But with the 4, that allows you to put an extra point into the one that you were trying to focus, or to help raise up some of the other ones, right? So let's say you were the 4 in body, just that way we can keep this in like a 1 in mind and a 4 in soul. Well, you can put 1 in these ones, but then you can put 2 in here and help catch your mind up to the rest of your stats. Alright, next one. The equipment. This is a super simplified version, not gonna lie. A lot of these do need like money attached to them, or just a better version compared to everything else now. So I'll go over the 3 most important ones here. Maybe healing is kind of a 4th most important. But the magazine, it holds 12 rounds total, right? But these 12 rounds are a universal round. So this magazine you have can go in your pistol, your rifle, your shotgun, your railgun. These can go into any of your basic weapons. We'll get into how universal rounds work when we get to the ammo section, because I feel like that would be the best way to do that. Next one is a grenade. So it does a 3x3 grid, or 9 spaces total, and you throw them a distance away that your body can throw it. Because, a weak guy's not going to be able to throw a grenade, a strong one can. The hacking glove is kind of like a Nintendo Power Glove. Get that sort of visual in your head. It's just this little, or like a somber hand. Maybe if you want to go big and clunky, we got the Fallout Pip-Boy. It's just this computer on your hand you can use to access electronic infrastructure and hack into it on the spot. So yeah, we'll come back to this. It's definitely pretty empty compared to some of the other fleshed out parts of my game now. That is 14 minutes taken up. So I think I might try, because this is a bit long of a segment. Yeah, we will go through the weapons in this section first, but I think I might split up mods to them separately, because if I try doing it all in one go, we'll get a little bit long. So, but that means I won't talk about the universal round. We'll talk about it here then. So the universal ammo, the UA, is meant to be a common ammo find in the world. Taking in mind that having to ship equipment and items across the galaxy takes up a lot of time, having to ship like this single magazine of a specific weapon type isn't as like cost worthy in manufacturer's mind as compared to just bulk shipping all this really cheap quality ammo. So that way, gun manufacturers also kind of they kind of all work together. A lot of companies sort of are a lot more unified and globalized in this, because now it's not like a us versus this nation in the game, it's Earth versus the galaxy. So I feel like humans would at least put aside a couple differences when faced with extraterrestrial threats. I'd hope. Probably not, but you know, it's the hopeful version. This is my universe. I get to make it how I want. So that's how the UA works. It's a round that's chambered, or I guess pistols and rifles both have the same chambering for it. And how it works when it's put in a shotgun is that a shotgun will have this little crosshair inside the barrel that will split the bullet into a couple of fragments. So here we have a quick little explanation, quick little guide, right? So it'll be the gun type or name, how much it costs, the quality of it, and what type of weapon, or what type of rarity. There we go, the rarity of the weapon. And then here is a little description of it, any additional stats you might need to know. So the C is the cost, the number, credits, whatever we want to call it, and 80, so right, the rifle would be 140 times 5. I got a burp. Excuse me. We might cut that out. The rifle is 140 times 5, so that is rough math. That's 560? No, not 560. $700? Sure, we'll just say somewhere around there. Yeah, 700 because this shotgun's like what, 6. So, yeah, rough math, and then just, anyway. Semi-automatic, so it's 1 bullet per action spent firing the weapon. 1d6 worth of damage total, which, considering how much the head and chest, like how little health you could have in a body part, that does seem like a lot of damage, but there's no end cap, right? So you can keep putting all this on, and then there's also a lot of armor you can put on your character, which will massively reduce damage. So you can make yourself a lot tankier, but then there's also the fact that you could be fighting aliens that have 80 hit points or something. And you can have multiple of these guns. So per human-to-human contact, it's going to be very violent and quick and lethal, but fighting incomprehensible beings that could absorb bullets, then things will get a little bit more dragged out. So the cool little action for this is that after shooting for 1 action, you can now fire on a bonus action. The idea is that pistols are fairly light, fairly simple to shoot. You can now kind of quickly fire them. And considering they're one-handed, so you can, you know, fire 2 at the same time for your little Kimbos, bam. That's pretty nice with the bonus action economy. The minimum range is just the minimum you can fire without suffering disadvantages. And the max is the max distance you can fire without suffering disadvantage. Now, let's go to another page. I might need to cut. Okay. This is a little demonstration zone I have set up. Did I not split these? Okay, no, they're split. I don't know why it's not. What layer is he on? Okay, that just looks weird. So the green will be our character in this. We actually might put him here. And the red is going to be the enemy. I hope that was obvious, but sometimes it might not be. So I cannot zoom in properly. There we go. So how that works, right? We'll just use blue for our damage indicator here. So that means in this square you have no penalty, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is where you have no accuracy, or that's it, not no damage. This is the distance you have no accuracy penalty when firing. But let's try choosing a different color if you like pink. Everything after this you do. So for each additional space you have, that is a negative modifier to the accuracy. So if you have, only like 1 or 2 spaces you're firing past it, it might not be too bad. When you have 20 or something, that could get a lot of disadvantages. So that way, it's not a limit. You're not firing, you can't fire past that. It's just that's not advised to fire past. Next one is the rifle. And so if you notice, it has a aim action. Originally I had a aim action for all weapons, all ranged weapons, because I felt that was a very obvious logical choice. It was made apparent to me that there wouldn't be a right reason to fire your weapon without aiming. Maybe I might make that a separate thing instead, is to like fire a gun without aiming, maybe make it a bonus action or something, because instead of actually trying to shoot, you're just haphazardly throwing it out there. So all these weapons are intended to be fired while aiming, but the rifle you can stabilize a little bit more. You can aim a little bit better, because compared to the pistol or definitely the shotgun, this is the one you're trying to be accurate. This is the one that you really want to hit with. And it also helps play into the role that you can turn this more into your sniper if you wanted. So it gives you a bunch of additional accuracy advantage dice. The minimum range is 2. Now why 2? In my vision, in my mind, right, it's harder to hit something up close with your rifle because you have to put a lot more effort into moving like side to side with it, or actually like properly lining up a shot, as compared with a pistol or a shotgun. The shotgun's gonna hit anything in front of it, and the pistol, it has no barrel length. It doesn't really have a length to it unless it's ridiculously long. Still, it's never gonna match up to a rifle. A rifle, that's a lot of awkward maneuvering when someone's in your face with a hammer. That's not to say you can't hit the person and you have barely a disadvantage when doing it, but that disadvantage is still there. It's kind of a punishment for letting someone get up that close, if that makes sense. So, minimum 2, maximum 25, and for the visual representation, that is... let's hope we can count fast enough. There we go, that's about how that would look. So it's not too much longer, but remember, these are firing with really bad, really cheaply made ammo. It's a lot better than the pistol, that's for sure, but yeah. So anyone within that range is pretty likely to gonna get hit with a fairly stronger round. Not too much stronger, but it is using the same round as the pistol, so it's just getting a little extra velocity. Shotgun, semi-automatic, so again, 1 pull per trigger, and it uses the magazine. It's not a breech-loaded or pump action. Well, the pump action is still like a semi-auto in a way, you know? It's not like effectively different enough. It's still 1 shot per trigger pull, you know? But it's a pump action. It's a magazine-fed shotgun. So 5d4 to health, but only 1d4 armor. You get a damage reduction when shooting armor because it is pellets now, or I guess fragments technically if we're using the UA round. Minimum 1, maximum 10. So I've been debating on getting rid of the maximum distance for the shotgun. That sounds silly, but given its special attack, the spread, adding a disadvantage feels silly to hit with the shotgun because you're going to naturally miss and hit something with the shotgun. Anyway, we'll get into that later. Maybe it requires some playtesting. So, the spread. Every 5 spaces, the shotgun loses a little bit of damage, right? However, losing that damage makes up for it because it now goes to an additional row. So, the visualization for that, right? Let's read this fully. Every 5 spaces, remove 1d4 from the main damage, and you can now target Targets in the adjacent rows are now subject to being attacked by the same attack as the main target. Rolls with a disadvantage. We're gonna get rid of that part. That sounds weird. Alright, damage is limited to 2, and the spread is only in effect with the pellet ammo or the UA. Again, shotguns have their own ammo, but when it's the UA, it can go for all 3 of these. So, what does that mean? How is that visualized? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You hit there, and it's a solid, basically, line of projectiles. But it now turns into an attack pattern that looks like this. It starts to spread out after every 5 spaces. This makes a fairly sizable cone you can hit anything with. Keep in mind that anything in this straight line now suffers a reduction in the damage, but these all will have a flat hit of 2. So if we go here, right? 5, 5, 5, 5. There we go. So that is, and it's 5d4 at the start, right? So everything in here is 5d4. This is now 4d4, 2d4, 3d4, and this is hitting on a 1d4. So anything over here, you're doing nothing with, basically. Like, that's so little damage. Except for the ends, which will hit at 2, because the grouping of pellets have now made their way out. So anything within this first 10 feet of range, 10 feet, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, everything within this first 50 feet of range, that's still getting sizable holes blown through them. But once you're up to 100 feet plus, it's a little bit harder to properly hit. And I just like that visualization for the shotgun. I think that was just very appropriate. Because most video games, for example, don't do the shotgun a lot of justice. And I just wanted to make sure that the shotgun was properly crafted for this. Sure, it's still not as hyper accurate as it could be, but then again, balancing hyper accuracy and fun is going to be a challenge. So the grenade launcher. Grenades in this universe are not separated by hand grenade and ammo grenade for a launcher. So if you had, like, it's not the pineapple grenade that we know today, it's going to be sort of like a soda can, but with a bunch of pineapple fragments on it. And it'll have a lip at the bottom, so that way it doesn't like slip out, or you can like carry it on you better. But you can take that lip, put it in a grenade launcher, a breech style grenade launcher, and fire it. So if you wanted an extra distance that you couldn't throw it to, you don't have to like run up now. You can have the choice of which range do you want to throw it at. And you don't need an accuracy because you're just firing it at something. It's an explosive. It's kind of going to hit every hit of the body. That's how explosions work, is compared to bullets, obviously, but you know, everything needs a good explanation sometimes. is that if a target is in that range of explosion, all of those body parts are now subject to being hit by that damage. I think maybe it's as it works now, it is a one roll, and it's that area of effect that'll do damage. And it might be better to make it each one is separate, each hit separate, but that'll take a lot more time because, you're going to be using grenade launcher on a grouping of people. So if there was 4 people and you had to make individual rolls for each of those body parts, that's a lot you're rolling. That's 24 different attack rolls when we could just make, that's 24 times, that's what, 70 dice you're rolling? Because it's also 3d6s for each of those instances of damage to the limb times characters. So I think the better version is just to make it that explosion does that amount of damage instead. The railgun. This is your anti-armor weapon. So shotgun's your anti-health, railgun's your anti-armor. And railguns are fairly powerful, naturally. They would do a lot of damage. Problem is they're moving so fast that I feel that they don't have the proper time to apply their damage to the flesh that they just are going to be flying through. So I made it so that way it's a bit more against armor, right? It's 2d6 still, like that's fairly strong against health, but it's going to be doing full damage to armor, which that feels strong still. I'm probably gonna change it, maybe make it I might try making it a bit more of like a plasma style or energy style, but it does use a solid projectile as its attack, so I feel like putting it here for now is fine. No special things because it just does a bunch of damage to armor. The cross/bow. Now, if you've noticed, there's not a SMG weapon here. Once we go from the conventional munition weapons, which are all our standard earth, gunpowder, and bullet-styled weapons, it goes straight to energy. Now, the reason why is because I didn't see the SMG as a different enough platform from a modified pistol or rifle for the game standard, right? Let's say you wanted to do a light SMG. Well, you take a pistol, put on rapid fire, automatic fire, and a large magazine on it. Heavy magazine, drum magazine. That's an SMG, right? Let's say you wanted a little bit heavier of one. Same thing with the rifle. You just put on automatic fire and a bigger belt, and that's essentially just an SMG. So I wanted the guns to be flavorable and very personal and customizable to how you wanted them. And an SMG just didn't justify having its own thing for. Which brings me to why is it called cross/bow? A crossbow and a bow and arrow aren't a different enough platform stat-wise in order to get their own thing. Which sounds silly, because if you know history, that's completely false, right? There was the longbow for a while, it was always the king of weapons. Crossbow rolls around and it destroys it. Well, in the modern era, where they're both made of the same things, and they both will probably have an equal draw distance, right? Because a crossbow in 300 years from now is going to be so simplified and light and made from some future element that drawing it takes the same time as a bow would. So there wasn't a difference in saying these two are different things anymore. But let's get into it. The crossbows. I just gonna put crossbow. I'm just gonna say crossbow because I'm referencing it as this, but I like crossbows more than bows. So it fires bolts. It's not firing bolts. It is a bolt action, quote unquote. That way it gets the benefits from using that system, but you can't really change it. So I might make it so you can change. I don't feel like you can. It does 2d8 of flesh, so this is our highest hitting weapon besides the shotgun, right? Shotgun's pretty strong, but out of all the other ones, this is our second highest. Grenade launcher, that's in its own special category. Why is that? Well, it's going to be putting a lot more... It's a bigger hole. It's a thing that's going to be lodged in you. More impact damage, right? A gun's still going to hurt. I'm not saying guns don't hurt. But sometimes a bullet can be... There are cases in our real world where people don't notice that they're shot. I don't feel like that's going to be the case with a bow, right? That's a pretty noticeable thing that's going to be sticking out of you. It's going to be adding a bunch of weight. And it's a lot more impact. Bullets pierce, an arrow sticks. So I wanted someone to choose the bow, but not be like, have it too overpowered. So that's just a little bit of an indication of why you'd want it. However, big, massive reduction of armor. You don't get a whole lot of armor piercing with them due to them being lower velocity, a little bit more weaker physically. So that does happen. There's that. So the special things with them is that the arrow will embed itself into a target. When they are there, you have to roll versus the health of the target. If you roll higher, it will stick itself and now deal 1 damage per every action they use that's not removing the arrow. So, right, let's say you and you stick the person. Instead of them pulling the arrow out, they decide to go run, they duck down, get into cover, and reload their weapon. That's 3 actions they took, and that's 3 damage they now have to deal with because the arrow is just sitting in them, tearing their body up, causing all this blood draw and draining. The user can draw the arrow, and each time they draw it, it increases the max distance and damage. So you can only draw your weapon up to 3 times, but if you do the action economy, which I believe you have 5 actions in this. That sounds like a lot, but I wanted these battles to be a lot more dynamic than just the 1 action economy of D&D, right? You can walk, and then you hit. And then that's the end of your turn. Or you walk, you cast a spell. There's not a whole lot of things that happen. In this one, you walk, you get into cover, you can peek out and fire, you can reload your gun. That's like 4 or 5 actions I just said, right? Or you can double run, you take up 2 actions, and then you slide into cover, which is like, you do both it's like crouching and movement at the same time. And then you reload your gun, so now we're up to 4, and you peek fire. It's going to be with a disadvantage, but bam, now you flew across the battlefield, and you're laying down some fire to keep enemies from moving. So, with the crossbow, right, you sit there, you draw for your arrow 3 times, get all this distance, all of this damage, and then you fire it. So that's 4, and then you get to reload or you get to duck. So it makes it a bit more of your sniper class, and you have to be a lot more steady. You have to be a lot more what's it called? Sedimentary? That might just be about rocks, but we get the idea. Obviously, and then there's silence, so you can't alert enemies to you when you use your weapon. They can only figure it if like they see the dead body and then they look over and see you, but you can't fire it and then they go, oh, I heard that, and then look over to you. So that is all of our normal weapons. Obviously the crossbow is not a conventional munition weapon, but it doesn't have anywhere else to go. Energy based, we only have 3. I'm totally open to putting in more. It's just these take a lot more creativity and a lot more complication in their actual mechanics. So the laser, spelled with a Z because that is the cool way of spelling it, it is a little bit. The special thing about it is after you shoot the enemy, you don't need to make another accuracy roll in order to hit the enemy again. It works simply by continuing to fire your weapon at that enemy because it's a laser beam. All of the energy weapons now take a battery or like an energy source instead of ammo, and they deplete that energy. But if you have it connected to the grid or something, you can fire indefinitely. This will generate heat, and you do need to vent the weapon in order to dissipate that heat, else you start melting your own gun. Bolts. This is how we think a lot of space weapons, like, oh, I have my energy blaster and it goes pew 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 and it shoots individual bullets. It doesn't make a lot of sense of how that would work, because the only way it would make sense is if you're deciding to fire your laser beam for a second and then cut it off, and then fire it again for a second and then cut it off, which just doesn't feel very efficient or makes any sense. So how would a bolt work? Well, let's think of it, instead of this large battery pack you're using, it's a bunch of smaller ones. You have like a what the what just happened? All right, give me a sec. Okay, we're back here for some reason. I don't know what happened there. Excuse me. Back to what I was saying. Imagine you're holding a revolver, but instead of bullets, it's like AA batteries. So you fire, bam, and then you can go to the next battery, and that's how I feel like a bolt weapon would work in this. Instead of one long continuous depletion of the battery, or a battery that you're only taking little bit parts of and sending them out, you're slam firing all of the energy into that one bullet. So it's basically the shortened down laser beam, instead of over this long period of time, over that 1 second, which makes the most sense in my mind. So instead of 2d6 over time, it's 4d4, so a little bit less damage, but less high damage, but more reliable damage. Maybe I might flip them around, because you want the laser to be reliable, you know, it's the constant stream. But so yeah, as it flies through the air, it does lose a little bit of its damage. It's 1 damage per every 5 spaces. So here's our visualizer, right? So, oh my god, that's a lot. There we go, right? There we go. So one, alright. Bam, so over there, nothing. But then these, it starts ticking down, right? My god. Sorry, this is very unprofessional, but we got -1, -1, -1. So if you only rolled really low, there could be a point from up to here where you're doing like 2 damage. But you know, it's you no longer need to buy ammo. You just plug it into the wall and it recharges. The mission. This is supposed to be the shotgun of the energy weapons. So it's 4 plus 1d4 damage. So it's a little bit weaker than our bolt. How it works is it sends out waves of energy that pierce targets. So I thought it had. It's a little bit complicated to read it sometimes, which is not a good sign, I would say, if the creator can't read it. So the emission sends out a wave of energy. These waves can pierce up to the number of dice rolled, up to the number of the damage on the dice rolled. So let's say it is 4. That's not the dice rolled. It is 1d4. And we roll a 3 on it. That means we can hit up to 3 targets with the same energy blast. It's not really the shotgun spread, but it does hit multiple targets in a row. It just helps give a little bit more, a different tactic you want to use, you know, different. These are just options. These are different gun platforms and variations you use to do the same thing with them, which is to do damage. The damage does not fall off, but for each enemy, you do need to make a new attack for that target. New accuracy roll for the target, excuse me, not damage. Plasma. So this is the mix of energy weapons and normal munitions. So you have to load in your normal ammo into that weapon to fire it, but you also need energy to coat that weapon in some plasma. A little bit, so it's a mix of both. Like I was saying, these are all different weapon platforms to do the same thing, which is to do damage to your enemies. So, plasma jacket, like the bolt, this is how we perceive the normal sci-fi space weapons. It shoots pew pew pews at the enemy of little blaster bolts. Instead of the other version where I was saying it is a single slam of a lot of energy that 1 second, this takes just normal bullets, coats them in the plasma, and fires those bullets, creating the same effect. So coat conventional rounds encased in the plasma and gives them a little extra punch at the cost of melting that bullet. So the damage starts at a 2d8, but will drop to a 1d8 at 9 spaces. So after it flies through half of its max total range, it'll now lose damage. And attacks past its max range are reduced to just a 1d4. That doesn't mean that means it's not going to melt completely away, I guess, but it's going to melt so far that it's not doing anything worth of damage. So this is going to be very mid-range sort of weapon. When hitting armor, it actually gains a increase to the accuracy and the damage because, you know, it's magnetic now. So 1 magazine held, and then a battery worth 20 energy. So the Spiker. This is more of a melee style weapon. It still has a fairly sizable range to it, which might get reduced down. But it now just hits this arc of plasma in front of you. It does a little bit more of a burst. So very high flat damage, very low random damage. So how it works, right? That flat damage of 6 can only be hit within the first 5 spaces, and anything beyond that will only do 2d4 worth. Now the wave. This one is our shotgun style of damage. Sends out a wave of plasma in 3 rows facing from the user. So that would be, if we go to our little grid here, that is, bam, these 3. So it hits in a box like this. Not a spread, right? It doesn't continue to go out to the sides. It's just this bar, this wave in front of us. Now, where's our roll a d6 to see how many instances of damage this deals, and then count them all as the same attack. So you roll a d6, and if it's 3, then it's 3 times 1 plus 1d4. So you roll a d4, you get 2 plus 1, so that's 3 times the 3. That's 9 damage in that area that it'll hit. And you'll need to make separate accuracy rolls for each target, and it can hit up to 1 target in each row. So if we had 3 different bad guys, right? I'm gonna just kind of make this. Whoa! Okay. I'm just gonna simplify this down, right? Let's say we have them like this. That means that we can no longer target anything behind them. So this just kind of hits out and then bam, it'll hit them and stop. But that is our 3 different plasmas. Each one has its own function and use. One's kind of more of normal, one's melee, one's shotgun. Melee is not the right word for it, but that's the best way I can exemplify it. Techno-organic. This is our last form of weapons. I'm not going to get over the melee weapons because they are upcoming for an entire rule set change, mechanics change. Because eventually I plan to redo or to flesh out exactly the mechanics and action economy of the system. It's set up for now, it's in working condition, but the melee weapons are going to become a lot more in-depth and reactionary, right? I don't have reactions in the game yet. I don't have like, oh, you can counterattack or block or something. So how it works is you just run up and you'd hit them, and then the enemy hits you, which I don't want. I want you or the enemy to be able to counter that attack or block or parry it and attack during the other person's turn. So that's going to be like the sword is going to get an entire new set of rules attached to it. And then after that, I'll go to the next episode where we'll just talk about the mods for all the ranged weapons, how to make your weapon more complicated and more interesting. But we'll top off the rest of this episode with the techno-organic munition mods. Now what these are your alien weapons. These are like the weapons made from flesh and bone, and instead of using a battery pack or a bullet, they use your own flesh. They use your own flesh and blood too. So, how do these ones work? Well, the Leecher, it will shoot out a bunch of tentacles from the front of the gun that will latch onto an enemy. From there, they leech a bunch of health from them onto you. Pretty simple. It's 1d4 times 2 plus 1d4 damage. That's to see how many tendrils they do, I think, and then how many damage each tendril does. So it could only be 1 tendril, but that tendril could do 6 damage, right? Or it could be 4 tendrils that all only do 3 damage. It's a nice little... all these are kind of a little bit closer. We'll get to it. There's the gnat. Now the gnat, I realize I don't have a range attached to this. Interesting, I missed something. So the gnat is like a grenade launcher, and how it works is you fire this basically a hornet swarm. You just take a swarm of bees, throw it at the enemy, but you can control that bee swarm and actually will it to go and attack the enemy, because the gnats are made from your own flesh and blood. So they're part of you, and you just mentally tell them to go and attack. Anything being attacked by those gnats are slowed down. They get a -2 to their movement. And the spiker, this one just shoots out a bunch of bone shards. However, it is extremely inaccurate, and you suffer a -6 to your accuracy roll. And when you hit damage, it reduces it from a 66 worth of damage down to a 2d4. So this is shotgun. I kind of tried styling each weapon a little bit to have their own variants of the normal ones. The techno-organic ones, I had to just kind of throw stuff out there. Alright, for each of these ones, it was here's your like mid-range, your long-range, and your close-range weapon. For this, it was here's a close-range one, a close-range one, and a kind of close-range one. But yeah, that rounds up the list of normal weapons. There are more types of stuff coming up. We do have melee weapons, which I'll rush over. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth because this is all outdated. This is all subject to change, hopefully sooner rather than later. But there's a sword, a hammer, a hand hammer, so like a little Mario, like just a little normal working tool and claw one, or Thor hammer. This is meant to be your big two-handed one. A knife, it does not matter the length. It could be a kitchen knife or it could be a little Swiss two-inch one. Doesn't matter. That's just how it works. There's actually two different. There's a chainsaw, so you know the two-handed tree cutting one, or a little hand saw, like a one that you like cut a pipe with. Gauntlets, they're kind of like it's a mix between armor and a glove. It's not really meant to be your main weapon, but you can reword it to be like uh, brass knuckles. So if you just wanted to punch something really hard, but also protect your hand a bit, they're kind of in between weapon. And then, just like with the hammer and hand hammer, we have a large axe and a hand axe. So something like a tree splitting axe or a fireman's axe, and just a little chopper, little tomahawk. But yeah, all of these are outdated, so we won't get into them. And I'm not gonna get into them, but I'm just gonna, here's a little sneak peek. We got ranged weapons here, and then down the list we have a lot of weapon mods. Here's melee mods. Again, these are probably gonna get changed around, but I do have like a fleshed out melee thing here. We have a big list of, not a big list, there's actually only 3, but each one of these have a lot of stuff to them. Heavy weapons. So these are all of your big things meant to take out a lot of big targets or vehicles. So, spoilers for that one. But yeah, this is where stuff gets fun. This is what I was meaning. Like there's an actual Gatling gun that I can't wait to see someone put on a small size character. And mods attached to each of them. Drones and turrets. I'm spoiling you guys a lot here, but I figured I have time. Turrets, no mods for any of this stuff yet. An armor list, armor mods. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to look forward to, and a bunch of stuff to not look forward to. But for now, we're just going to keep it. We're gonna go one at a time. Sorry for the spoilers, but maybe that gives you guys a little bit of something to look forward to. Alright, thank you guys for joining me on another journey. I will get back to you guys in a little bit. Have a good day.